people want affordable right now, and this is it. This is why you see this dealership looking like this. They're doing it on purpose. Right out of the gate, $14,500 off, plus a 2.9% interest rate. Average new vehicle sale price within the US across the board, across all vehicle manufacturers, is $47,500. I applaud Subaru for keeping the price hikes down over the years. Right now, you have the luxury of cross-shopping. Going to various dealerships, you don't need to worry about, oh man, it is sold out from underneath me, because guess what? The dealership up the road likely has the same exact vehicle that you're interested in, and well, they're probably going to want to play ball with you if it actually meant making a deal happen. Now, it might not come as a surprise to you, but Honda has a number of vehicles among that top 25 best-selling list in the US. These tiny little Skittle beep beeps here is where they can actually make sales happen. Right here, we have a few examples where they're all right around $30,000 to $32,000. And you know times are tough when the brand new 2024 Toyota Tacoma sales are extremely lackluster, and that's putting it nicely. It's very common to see dealerships discount brand new Tacomas of various trims $5,000 off. You know, the profit margin on these is not huge by any means, but dealerships know that they can sell them. So once upon a time, during COVID, a lineup like this would never be seen at any dealership, right? And this is not unique to my local dealership, guys. This right here, this is everywhere. This is everywhere across the US. So watch the values of these over the next 2 or 3 years. Guarantee it, they're gonna remain right at MSRP or even go up a little bit. Hey YouTube, Untamed here. I think a lot of us can agree that the car market at large has been in kind of an awkward state, almost like a stalemate to some degree. Dealerships are being overflooded with inventory across the board, across various vehicle manufacturers as well. In today's video, I'm gonna show you several dealerships here in my hometown and really highlight a common theme between each of them. Each of these dealerships are pushing a very particular type of vehicle, it appears, and it appears to be on purpose. So I want to highlight that in today's video and get your take on it. But more importantly, I want to wrap up this video with talking through why I truly believe right now is the best time to buy a vehicle. And I'll explain why. Even though interest rates are garbage, I think we can all agree on that, there's a lot of incentives out there, and you can truly get an exceptional deal, a large discount, and really no matter the vehicle. Even if it's a hard to find quote-unquote TRD Pro model for Toyota, I think you can get a really good deal. Same goes for like Ford Raptors, etc. We'll talk through it in today's video. Stick with me. So behind me here is that common sight that we've all gotten used to. A number of Ford F-150 Lightnings, a ton of EVs that continue to collect dust. They continuously fail when it comes to selling across the nation, and for good reason. People have lost interest in the EVs, and it's abundantly clear. Normally, the people who buy these EVs are people who are buying them as secondary vehicles or even third vehicles within their household. It's very rarely a primary vehicle unless you live in a very particular area, right? But here we have a number of 2023 models, last year's model. And let me remind you, we're in mid-July right now of 2024, but we have a whole lineup of 2023 Ford F-150 Lightnings, and this is not an uncommon sight. So you can easily get $15,000 to $20,000 off of MSRP on these, just because there's so many government subsidies, so many tax credits. Even here in the window it says up to $7,500 off for a federal tax credit, and you can get well beyond that, I assure you. But even that's not enough. And here's another example here. So a lease, 0 down for 48 months, 15,000 miles a year, $715 a month. I don't know, it's kind of a stellar deal, but even that is not enough to get people to even lease it. And everywhere you look, you're gonna find an EV. We have that Mustang Mach-E right here and several others all lined up on top here, and there's even more on the far side. Again, they're just piling up. They don't know what to do with them. So we've talked about it before, but MSRPs across the board on average have gone up over 36% since 2019. That's pretty insane, especially when you consider vehicles for large families. So if you don't know, I have 4 kids myself, and we often need to buy in this segment here. This is, of course, a Ford Expedition here. The price? Over $94,000. It's not uncommon to teeter well over $100,000 for this particular segment, right? If you're gonna go get a Yukon XL Denali or an Ultimate Edition, etc., you name it, it is not uncommon to spend 6 figures on a full-size vehicle like this, which is pretty absurd. And I'll show you the other dealerships, but I'm seeing a common theme of so many dealerships collecting a ton of inventory on these kind of these subcompact crossover vehicles, much like this Ford Bronco Sport here. They're doing it because people can actually afford this vehicle here, and because of that, they can actually move that inventory. So although it may not seem to be the case with the vast majority of them being this vehicle, they're still selling them. People are buying these because they can actually afford them, and when you can get a warranty with it, why not? Many of these vehicles here are in the low 30s, and that's before you get an incentivized interest rate and, of course, a small discount on it too on top of it. So spending 30 grand for a new vehicle, really it's not that bad of an idea, especially when you consider that the average new vehicle sale price within the US across the board, across all vehicle manufacturers, is $47,500, just under that. When you compare that to 2019, it was $36,500, about. And when I said it was a theme, I'm not kidding. There are dozens upon dozens of this Ford Bronco Sport just chilling here at this local dealership of mine. And this is not unique to my local dealership, guys. This right here, this is everywhere. This is everywhere across the US. And I'm not gonna bore you with walking the whole line here. I'll give you a quick idea. And when you look at the top 25 best sellers within the US, there are generally mid-size to subcompact vehicles like this, these crossover vehicles. Although, to be fair, that has become the most popular type of vehicle within the US, but it's abundantly clear why, because people are actually buying them. They're buying them because they can actually afford them. Generally speaking, they're between $30,000 and $45,000. So we have a couple examples of RAV4s here. We have Limited over there, and right here, actually I haven't looked at the price tag of this one, but yeah, here we go. $36,000 and some change for this particular XLE RAV4. So again, people aren't necessarily buying them because they're amazing vehicles. They're buying them because they're affordable. And times are tough right now for everybody. If you can buy a vehicle and keep it within the $30,000 range and get exceptional fuel economy and have peace of mind of having a full warranty on a vehicle, and it being a Toyota generally helps, right? And that's why people are buying them, right? Times are tough. They're remotely affordable, good fuel economy. I don't know, it's kind of a no-brainer for a lot of folks, and that's why they are selling like hotcakes even still. That's why we're seeing such a huge slump with, well, sales of those things right there. Toyota Tundras are not selling. Full-size pickup trucks, they're not selling right now because, well, people just can't afford the extreme price tags that we find on them, which are generally high 70s nowadays on full-size pickup trucks. And the Toyota Venza here has been kind of a flop. It's kind of an identity crisis to some degree, but look at that, you do get at least some advertised deals. It was $46,000 some change down to $44,000 and some change for this particular example. This is kind of the redheaded stepchild. Not a whole lot of folks love this thing, and it doesn't really fit in too well amongst like the RAV4 here, the Toyota Highlander, the Grand Highlander. It's just kind of an iffy thing, right? It's just kind of plugged in the middle of it. Doesn't really have a true identity, I would argue. Now, to get to my original point of why I believe it truly is among the best times to buy a new vehicle is, you know, you're seeing stuff like this. You're seeing large discounts. You can easily get $8,000 to $10,000 off a higher trim Toyota Tundra right now. Granted, there's some things up for debate with the questionable engine. You got some main crankshaft bearing issues happening with this and a large safety recall because of it. But, well, you can get a great deal on it. And it's not just the Tundra, of course. You can get a number of excellent interest rates and huge discounts off of the actual sticker price itself across the board on various manufacturers. We'll check out a couple more examples today. And you know times are tough when the brand new 2024 Toyota Tacoma sales are extremely lackluster, and that's putting it nicely. It's very common to see dealerships discount brand new Tacomas of various trims $5,000 off. To be fair, they're not doing that quite yet with the TRD Pro and Trail Hunter. You still have a couple greedy dealerships out there across the nation who are still trying to nab you with a markup. But holistically speaking, on like a TRD Sport, TRD Off-Road, SR5, you can get $5 off sticker extremely quick, which is nice, but even that isn't helping the sales figures right now. One vehicle that has been within that top 25 best-selling list of 2024 is the Ford Maverick here. So as you see by this particular example, just a very bare bones example of a Maverick, right? You can got steely wheels on it. This is an XL, but look at that, under $30,000, you can still get a new truck, right? So $27,900 before any kind of optional package here. Maybe even get a couple $1,000 off of this one and get an incentivized interest rate pretty quickly. But all that to say, vehicles like this, they're selling because people can actually afford them. Heck, I mentioned at the beginning of the video how you can buy Ford Raptors, even 37 performance packages now for a couple $1,000s off of MSRP. I can post a number of examples. I often do it on my Instagram. But even there was a once upon a time during COVID, a lineup like this would never be seen at any dealership, right? We have a number of Broncos here. I'll just show you one of the examples here. We have a Badlands example. I like this blue. but we're looking at just under 70 grand for it. You know, well, 66 before the optional package. That's a lot of money for people to be spending. But to give you an idea, this is pretty common. A lot of dealerships have a lineup of Broncos like this, so you can go there and easily get a pretty good discount if it meant you actually buying one and driving off the lot that day. Heck, even these Super Duties, once upon a time in a not so recent past, these often came with a $10,000 to $15,000 markup on them. But thankfully, we're well beyond those times, and dealerships are really being forced to offer good deals on them. Here's an example here, $93,000 and some change for this F-250 Super Duty. But it is refreshing to know that you can go to a dealership and you are in the driver's seat. You go there and you can negotiate a deal. And that's the point I'm really trying to make to you guys. Right now, you have the luxury of cross-shopping. Going to various dealerships, you don't need to worry about, oh man, it is sold out from underneath me. Because guess what? The dealership up the road likely has the same exact vehicle that you're interested in. And well, they're probably going to want to play ball with you if it actually meant making a deal happen. And again, more of that common theme would be the Hyundai Tucson. Again, making that top 15 best-selling vehicles here in the beginning of 2024. Let me give you an idea of just what we're working with. So $37,200 for this particular example. And Hyundai consistently runs great incentives to buy these. And we're talking very low interest rates over an extended amount of time. But between that and the discounts, this is why the Hyundai Tucson in particular is selling well. I kind of feel like I'm living in Italy. With each passing year, we're beginning to see much more of these subcompact crossovers, right? So here behind me, we have a number of Hyundai Konas, the price tag being between $29,000 and $31,000. You know, the profit margin on these is not huge by any means, but dealerships know that they can sell them. Yeah, maybe you would argue the contrary because there's so many behind me, but I would argue within a couple months, these will be all gone. People can actually afford a $29,000 new vehicle these days. And when you combine that with an excellent interest rate, it's a no-brainer. Here's a fairly uncommon side. We have a 2023 Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro, magnetic gray metallic, with just over 17,000 miles on it. This one here does not have a price tag on it. I looked online, they didn't have it priced just yet, but I can honestly tell you, this right here will be a gem in the next 2 or 3 years, guys. They're doing away with the naturally aspirated V6 here, tied to the bulletproof 5-speed automatic transmission, and going to a much more complex platform in the 2025 model year for the 4Runner in particular. Kind of like what they did with the Tacoma and the Land Cruiser. They're hybridizing it. This right here is going to be the last of the tried, true, and trusty version of the 4Runner. So watch the values of these over the next 2 or 3 years. Guarantee it, they're going to remain right at MSRP or even go up a little bit if it has low miles on it. This one here, I'd comfortably argue they're going to price it right around $53,000, $54,000, maybe even a little bit more. And that's for a used example, 2023, a year and a half old at this point. But there you have it. Now I gotta admit, I actually really like the look of this new Hyundai Santa Fe. It's actually pretty unique looking. Let me show you how much they want for them though. We have good fuel economy in them, 34 miles to the gallon on average for this particular hybrid example here. It's a hybrid limited, so kind of the upper end of the pricing scale, but there you see it there, $47,500 about. Yeah, that is legitimately the average sale price. Right now, that exact price tag is the average sale price of a new vehicle within the US right now. That's high. Gosh, I remember growing up and seeing a Chevy Tahoe for $45,000 way back when, fully loaded. But nowadays, if you're to get that same Tahoe fully loaded, man, you're teetering up high 80s. Pretty crazy. And as I hinted at earlier, here is a Yukon Denali. This one's an XL version of it. And well, look at that price tag. We're looking at $97,000, almost $98 grand for it. That's what I'm talking about. You know, dealerships are having a much harder time selling these $100,000 vehicles. So it doesn't make sense. It makes sense for them to buy what we see over here. These right here, these tiny little Skittle beep beeps here is where they can actually make sales happen. Right here, we have a few examples where they're all right around $30,000 to $32,000. Let's check out this particular example. For starters, check out the advertised 0.9% interest rate. But then when you combine that with a price tag that is actually bearable of $33,000-ish for this particular Encore GX Sport Touring, this is what they can sell. This is what people can afford when they go to a dealership nowadays, right? They're not going over there and buying that $100,000. Obviously two very different segments, but this is what is actually able to sell right now. I'll show you this one here, another EV. This is a Cadillac Lyriq 450e. I actually don't know too much about these. Sport to is the particular trim. There's the MSRP though, $73,000, about, well, $72,500. But look at this, right out the gate, $14,500 off plus a 2.9% interest rate. You know, that's, you know, starting to be a little bit more bearable, but even then, I would still argue it is wildly overpriced. I guess blue ones are a little bit more in demand. This one's only $5,000. So I really don't understand that. Well, the GMC Sierra 3500 Denali Ultimate Edition here has the Yukon Beat, if you can believe it. This one actually breaks the $100,000 threshold. How about that? And now I'm at a Subaru dealership where there are dozens upon dozens of Subaru Crosstreks as well as Subaru Foresters, and that's by design. They're doing that on purpose because they know they can sell this. Here behind me is a Subaru Crosstrek. The MSRP, just over $28,000. Very doable. And if I kind of pan around, maybe you get an idea of just how many are here at this particular dealership. So they know they can sell them because people can actually afford it. And the most expensive example of a Crosstrek is this one right here. This one happens to be a Crosstrek Sport, and the MSRP really isn't even that much more. We're looking at $31,437 for this particular example. That's kind of a neat color too. What do you guys think? You guys actually might want to beat me up for admitting to this, but I do like the look of this new Subaru WRX. This is a 24 WRX Limited here. And one thing I want to give a quick shout out to Subaru at large for is, you know how I mentioned across all vehicle manufacturers, we saw on average 36% price hike on MSRP since 2019. Subaru has been on the lesser end of that. Their price hikes have been pretty minimal over the last 4 or 5 years. So I applaud Subaru for keeping the price hikes down over the years. They get some cool points for that. And also among the top best-selling vehicles within the US right now is this right here, the Subaru Forester. I actually kind of like it. They have a new refreshed front end, definitely pretty unique looking, but it's a bestseller because of the price tag, guys. So we're looking at right about $40,000 for this particular example here, just over $40,000. Forester Limited. This is a higher trim. You can technically save quite a bit if you were to get a lesser trim Forester. Let me know what you think of this new Forester. Right behind me is an example of a used Chevy Trailblazer, about 20,000 miles on it, and they want just over 25 grand for it. 2023 model year. This Trailblazer here, as well as the Chevy Trax, have sold tremendously over the last year and a half because of that great starting price point, right around $25,000 to $30,000. People can afford them, and Chevy is notorious for offering 0% interest rate or 1.9% interest rate on a regular basis. Now, it might not come as a surprise to you, but Honda has a number of vehicles among that top 25 best-selling list in the US. Honda Civic, Honda HR-V here, the Honda CR-V is among the top. But let me show you an example here. So this is a HR-V, and we're still well under $30,000 price tag. This one happens to be an all-wheel drive LX example. No, this is not a markup per se, but they do have the all-season package. I wonder what that entails. But here you go, another affordable option with the HR-V, and well, sales figures are proving it right now. And here we have a number of Honda CR-Vs available. These are actually toward the top of the list when it comes to best-selling vehicles in the US right now, largely because of this right here. 37 miles to the gallon, and the price tag still over $7,000 less than the average new sale price of a vehicle. I'll give you an idea, a reminder rather, of what they look like out front. Now, Nissan has developed a reputation of always offering tremendous incentivized rates, right? We're talking 0% interest rates over 72 months, oftentimes, or up to 1.9% over 72 months. That's a very common thing from Nissan. And well, you see a number of Nissan Sentras behind me, Altimas. Those are very affordable examples, and they're purposely loading their lots up with them because they know they can move them, right? Many of these Sentras here, high 20s. 26,000, you can come in here and get one, and with a 0% interest rate, several $1,000s off, at least a couple. I don't know, it feels like a pretty good deal. And if you can have that warranty kind of backing it, why not? Another contender on that top 25 best-selling list is the Nissan Rogue. For good reason. Kind of like what I just mentioned over there for the Sentra, you can get incredible interest rates and get several $1,000s off. And the starting point on many of these examples behind me are in the mid to low $30,000 range. Again, not that bad of an option. Behind me here, we have a number of Nissan Versas. So many of these are $21,000, $22,000. Not very often can you buy a brand new vehicle in the low 20s nowadays. So when you have that peace of mind of that warranty, a lot of people are buying this. So it is on purpose and by design that we see Nissan dealerships stocking up on these affordable, less expensive vehicles ultimately, right? And what I'm getting at is you can go in here and negotiate a great deal right now. And if you can't get it from here, go up the road. There's plenty of options out there right now. Between getting a great interest rate, several $1,000s off, you can choose, you're in the driver's seat, and that hasn't always been the case, especially during COVID, right? So similar to what we find with Toyota now, a lot of vehicle manufacturers are outsourcing production to Mexico. Here's an example. Nissan has done it as well with the Nissan Kick here, the Nissan Kicks. Here you can get a very affordable subcompact crossover here for about $25,000. The difference between Nissan and Toyota though, well, we actually see the cost savings that the manufacturer is getting by producing their vehicles in a much less expensive labor country like Mexico. Whereas with the Toyota in particular, Toyota Tacoma, you're still spending a huge amount, an arm and a leg, over $50,000 for nearly any trim Tacoma. Not the case from Nissan at least. And here we have a whole lineup of Chevy Trailblazers and Trax. So this example of a Trax right here, just over $20,000. Many of these Trailblazers are right around $24,000, $25,000. This right here is extremely affordable, and this, again, it's on purpose that we see so many lined up at this particular Chevy dealership because they know, you know, even fresh out of high school, your first new vehicle, this is an ideal pick for many parents out there. It's an ideal pick for anybody kind of in a tough spot and just needing a reliable vehicle. Reliable, I'll say it loosely, but this here just makes sense. So this here is the common theme that we're seeing, and we're seeing tremendous sales figures of the Trax in particular, I can say. Trailblazer not too far behind it, really. People want affordable right now, and this is it. This is why you see this dealership looking like this. They're doing it on purpose. So all this to say, the economy is in a tight spot right now. That's abundantly clear, and it's no surprise to anybody. But dealerships are literally screaming it. They're screaming it between their inventory that they have, the high levels of inventory, but more specifically, the type of inventory that they're shooting for right now. They know things are tight. Cost of groceries are through the roof, the cost of insurance is through the roof, the cost of living, mortgage, rent, blah, 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 you name it. Things are tight for Americans right now, and well, they know it. And that's why they're putting $20,000 to $25,000 to $30,000 vehicles on their lots across the board. So let me know what your thoughts are. Would you consider buying like this Chevy Trax right here for $21,000, $22,000? Would you consider buying one of these right now? You know, on paper, doesn't seem like that bad of a deal when you combine it with a good interest rate. So as always, guys, I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to watch these videos. If you found any kind of value in this or you enjoyed it at all, please let me know, and please consider liking and subscribing. Your support means a lot, and it definitely does not go unnoticed. Until next time.